Hello, darling. It's Rose. They say every family has its breaking point. Mine came wrapped in roses and arrogance. It was a Thursday morning when they rang the bell. Not called, not texted, just stood there. My son and his wife, smiling like they'd just stepped off a yacht. I opened the door in my robe, still holding a tea mug, mascara smudged from sleep. And there they were, matching puffer jackets, sunglasses too big for their faces, and a suitcase. Two, actually. We heard you bought a penthouse, my daughter-in-law said, as if commenting on the weather. She gave a little shrug, like the news was no big deal, just something she'd happened to overhear at the country club. We thought this could be our moment to make peace, my son added. My tea went cold in my hand. Make peace. That was the phrase that stuck in my chest like a dry swallow. Not visit, not congratulate, not even reconnect. Make peace, as in forgive us for everything we did, without talking about it, of course, and let us live in the clouds on your dime. Because I'd done it. Finally. After a lifetime of maybe next year and wait until the market's better, I bought the place I'd been dreaming about since I was 48. The penthouse, top floor, sunlight from every direction, and quiet, blessed quiet. No footsteps above me, just sky. I hadn't told them, on purpose. And yet somehow here they were, standing on my porch with manicured hands and entitled eyes. Rachel, my daughter-in-law, smiled wider. That smile that always reminded me of a hotel receptionist telling you your room wasn't ready. We thought we could all start fresh. The kids are excited too. We told them Nana's got a rooftop now. She said it like it was a joke. My son, Matthew, stood beside her, nodding like an assistant, not quite meeting my eyes. I wondered if he ever would again. Can we come in? He asked, already stepping forward. And that was the moment, right there, the shift. The first crack in the dam, because I didn't move. I didn't open the door wider. I didn't say, of course, come in. I just stood there, and for the first time in years, they noticed. No, I said. Rachel blinked. Excuse me? No, I said again, softer this time, but steady. You can't come in. You need to leave. Silence. The kind of silence that makes the wind sound like a scream. Matthew's face flushed, but it was Rachel who spoke. Rose, we're trying to do the right thing here. Rebuild. You're not rebuilding, I said. You're squatting. And worse, you think I should be grateful for the intrusion. Their faces changed then, like glass catching light from a different angle. Rachel's mask cracked first. You're being ridiculous, she snapped. We're family. And there it was, the sacred word. Family. Used like a crowbar, a weapon, a guilt trip in one syllable. I'm aware, I said. And I remember exactly how family treated me when I asked to come over last Thanksgiving, and Rachel told me the kitchen was already too crowded. I remember when I offered to babysit and was told the kids needed a youthful environment. I remember when I loaned you money and was told I imagined it. Matthew cleared his throat. That was years ago. And yet, I said, I remember it like yesterday. Rachel crossed her arms. So this is revenge? No, I said. This is real estate. Their expressions twisted in confusion. I paid for that penthouse, I said. Every square inch. After years of budgeting and couponing and sewing my own curtains, after spending a lifetime living beneath everyone's expectations, including yours, that place is my peace. And you don't get to invade it with matching luggage and borrowed apologies. My voice was shaking now, not with nerves, but with the decades pressing up against my ribs. We made mistakes, Matthew said, suddenly soft again. We want to fix them. Then go home, I said, and start fixing. He looked like he might cry. For a moment, the boy he once was flickered through his eyes. The one who used to bring me dandelions and apologize when he lost his mittens, but I didn't reach for him. I didn't comfort. Rachel picked up her suitcase, snapping the handle with too much force. Come on, she hissed. She's chosen her loneliness. And I watched them go, back to their leased BMW. Back to the lives I had financed, one quiet check at a time. I stood in the doorway for a long time after they left, the wind curling around my ankles like a cat. And then, slowly, I closed the door. locked it, and I exhaled. Not the soft kind of breath you take in sleep, but the hard kind, the kind that comes after holding it in for years. And I whispered to myself, the rooftop's still mine. They didn't call for days. Not the next morning, not the one after, not even a text. I half expected a dramatic follow up, an apology, or more likely a tantrum. But the silence stretched long and taut, like a held breath that never came. I didn't miss it. Instead, I packed. Slowly, deliberately. The kind of packing that felt ceremonial. Each item I wrapped wasn't just a belonging. It was a fragment of an old life being sorted, honored, then folded into a new one. The realtor had said I could move in any time. The penthouse had been waiting, pristine and untouched. Walls painted soft cream, windows overlooking the river, and that rooftop terrace. Lord, that terrace. When I first stepped out onto it, the breeze nearly made me cry. I felt taller up there. Not just because of the view, but because for once, no one was above me. I moved in alone. No welcome committee. No helping hands. But I liked it that way. I hired movers for the heavy things, but the rest I did myself. I wanted to touch every corner, every drawer, make it mine from the inside out. The first night, I sat on the rooftop with a glass of wine, wrapped in an old shawl, and watched the sun disappear behind the skyline. I thought about what it meant to be free, not just physically, but emotionally. No more quiet servitude, no more cheerful enabling. It was the best night's sleep I'd had in a decade, until the knock came 3 days later. 3. Morning sun pouring in, I was mid-bite on a croissant. The Times folded beside me when the building's doorman called up. There's a Mrs. Rachel Atwood here to see you, says she's family. Family? That word again. She doesn't have clearance, I said, already standing. No, ma'am. Shall I send her away? I hesitated. I'm not proud of it, but some part of me wanted to see what she'd try next. Like rubbernecking a car crash. You hate yourself for looking, but you do anyway. Send her to the lobby lounge, I said. I'll be down in 15. She was sitting on the velvet settee when I arrived, legs crossed like a news anchor, fingers nervously tapping on her designer purse. She stood too quickly when she saw me, almost as if she'd been rehearsing. Rose, she said, breathless. Thank you for seeing me. I took a seat opposite her, crossed my legs, said nothing. Rachel clasped her hands like a woman in prayer. We handled it badly. The surprise visit, the assumption. I can see that now. I just thought, maybe if we showed up, you'd see we were serious. I tilted my head slightly. Serious about what? She blinked. About repairing things, about family, about offering an apology. Apology accepted, I said, and declined. That confused her. Let me be clear, I said, voice calm. You can apologize. I'll accept it. But I won't absorb it. Not anymore. I won't let your apology be the price of access. You don't get to apologize and then move in. I wasn't saying we'd move in permanently, she said quickly. Just a while. Things have been difficult. There it was, the real reason. I see, I said. You assumed because I moved up, I'd pull you with me. Rachel's smile cracked. I thought it would be a kindness. Rachel, I said, leaning forward, I have spent 30 years giving kindness to people who mistook it for obligation. I know the difference now. She stiffened. I just thought if the children were closer to you. The children, I interrupted, haven't spoken to me without prompting in over 6 months. She looked down. Guilty, but not enough. Then she tried a new angle. Matthew's been under a lot of pressure. With the layoffs, the mortgage, She trailed off. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. But that isn't my mortgage. It isn't my pressure. And if he needed help, he could have come himself, not sent you with a suitcase and a narrative. The silence between us lengthened. You know, she said quietly, you always seemed so strong, but you never made us feel that strength was ours to share. I stared at her. It was a manipulative little jab, dressed up like insight. And I almost let it land, but I didn't. I stood up. This strength, I said, was hard won. and you don't get to call it selfish just because it no longer benefits you. Rachel stood too. She was trying not to cry, whether from embarrassment, frustration, or the slow dawning realization that the Bank of Rose was closed for good. I couldn't say. I hope someday, she whispered, you'll change your mind. I smiled, not cruelly, but with a kind of settled grace. I already did, I said. That's why I'm here. And I walked away, back up to my sky-high home, my little empire of silence and sunlight. And as I opened the door, I whispered to myself, just once, just quietly, you are not a villain for choosing peace. They came back. Not Rachel this time. Matthew. Alone. No suitcase. No smiles. I'd been back from the farmer's market, arranging tulips in a chipped vase by the kitchen window when the intercom buzzed. It was nearly dusk. That strange time of day when the light turns everything gold and your heart feels a little too soft. I knew it was him before I picked up. Mom, he said. Just that. One word. I should have let him wait. I should have made him come back a different day or never. But sometimes, no matter how strong you become, a certain voice still makes your ribs ache. So I told the doorman to let him up. He looked thinner. Or maybe just smaller, like he'd shrunk under the weight of the things he wasn't ready to admit. A gray wool coat, wrinkled and unbuttoned, hair that hadn't been properly combed, and eyes, those same pale green eyes I used to kiss goodnight, that now flicked around the room like he didn't know where to land. He stepped into my apartment like it wasn't real, like he was walking through a museum exhibit labeled What My Mother Built Without Me. Nice place, he murmured. It is, I said. I didn't offer tea, didn't offer a seat. I wanted to see what he would do without the comfort of expectation. He walked toward the windows, stared out at the skyline. Rachel says you're done with us. There it was. No, I said. I'm done pretending that your version of us is enough. He turned slowly, brow furrowed like a boy trying to understand a grown-up word. What does that mean? He asked. I felt tired, but not weak. There's a difference. It means, I said, I spent the better part of my life believing that love meant sacrifice. That giving and giving, without acknowledgement, without return, was just part of being a mother. That if I stopped, even for a moment, I was failing you. His mouth opened slightly. I kept going. When you were little, I'd cut the bruises off apples and eat them myself so you could have the good part. I sat through a job I hated so I could pay for your soccer uniform. I sold the pearl earrings my mother left me to pay your first car insurance. You never asked me to do those things directly, but you always knew I would. Mom, no, I said, gently but firmly. Let me finish. He looked down. When your father died, I thought maybe finally we'd have a different kind of relationship. One built on respect, not dependency. But then Rachel needed just a bit of help with the kitchen remodel. Then it was the private school. Then it was the vacation you said I'd love to join but never actually invited me to. Every dollar I gave was a chapter in a story where I disappeared. And now that I've written a new one, you want to edit it. His hands were in his pockets now. I could see the twitch of his jaw, the way it used to when he'd try not to cry as a boy. I didn't know you felt like that, he said softly. Because you never asked. We stood there, the silence pressing like gravity. He walked to the dining table, sat down heavily, looked around like he was trying to memorize it. I lost my job, he said. 2 months ago. I said nothing. I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to need anything else from you. I watched him, and oh, how my heart betrayed me. How it wanted to pull out a checkbook, to offer him my safety net one more time. But I didn't. Rachel said the penthouse was paid in full, he added. Is that true? It is. How? I sat across from him, folded my hands. By not funding everyone else's life anymore. His eyes welled, and this time I saw the crack. I was always proud of you, he said. I guess I thought I was supposed to move forward while you stayed put. I felt something shift in me then. Something gentle, Not forgiveness, not yet, but recognition. You did move forward, Matthew, I said, but you never once looked back to see what you were standing on. His voice cracked. I want to fix that. I nodded, slowly. Then start by learning how to stand on your own 2 feet, not mine. He nodded too, swallowed hard. I'm not asking to move in, he said. Just maybe dinner next week, just me. No Rachel, just us. I let the silence settle, not to be dramatic, but because I needed to hear my own answer. Dinner, I said. Next week. He stood slowly, walked toward the door. I'm glad you bought this place, Mom, even if I wasn't part of it. I followed him to the door. You still could be, I said quietly. Just not in the way you used to be. He paused, then nodded once. I'm ready for that. And when the door closed behind him, I stood there in the fading light and felt something new. Not victory, not sadness. A beginning. The call came 3 days later. It wasn't Matthew, it was Rachel. I saw her name on the screen and let it ring once, twice, 3 times before I answered. I don't know why I picked up. Maybe because some battles need to be looked in the eye, even if the voice on the other end is dripping in honey and history. Rose, she said, and the way she said it made my name feel like a diagnosis. I wasn't expecting your call, I replied, keeping my voice as level as the horizon line I could see from my terrace. There was a pause as if she were calculating her angle. I wanted to thank you for speaking with Matthew. He's been lighter, different, like something let go. I imagine letting go of expectations does that, I said. Another pause, longer this time. I could hear something in the background. A blender? No, a child crying faintly. Her children. My grandchildren. The ones I hadn't seen in 6 months, save for the Christmas card that arrived 2 weeks late and unsigned. We'd like to come see the place, or she said casually, as if suggesting brunch. The children are so curious, and I thought maybe this could be a fresh start. For all of us. Fresh start, that phrase again. They kept saying it like it was a coupon that never expired. Good for one free reset, regardless of what had been broken. I'm not sure that's a good idea, I said gently. Why not? She asked, suddenly sharper. It's a penthouse, Rose. It's not a secret bunker. We're family. There it was again. The sledgehammer in a velvet glove. Family. Always brought out when the account was empty, but the appetite remained. You're welcome to start fresh in your own home, I said. This one is already spoken for. But Matthew came to me as himself, I interrupted. Not as your envoy. He didn't come to negotiate. He came to face something. She was silent again, and then her voice changed, like glass under pressure. I don't know what stories he's told you, Rose, but you should know. Our situation is precarious. His severance is gone. The house is up for sale. I'm working overtime. The kids don't understand why everything's changing. They're scared. I took a breath, a long one. I closed my eyes and saw my own face in the hallway mirror, 20 years ago. The look I wore when the refrigerator broke the same week the car did, and no one knew but me. I'm sorry things are hard, I said. Truly. But I am no longer the life raft. She didn't like that. I could hear it in the silence. You've changed, she finally said. And this time it wasn't a compliment. Yes, I said. That was the point. I heard her inhale, sharp and controlled. You know, she said, her voice like chipped porcelain, I always thought you enjoyed being needed. I did, I admitted, until I realized no one saw me unless they needed something. She hung up. Not abruptly, but with the quiet cruelty of someone who thinks they've won by leaving first. I set the phone down and turned back to the window. A hawk was gliding above the river, unbothered by the city noise. I watched it until it vanished, small and high and free. That evening I didn't hear from Matthew. Not that night or the next. But on the third night, someone buzzed the front desk. Again. It was Rachel. She had the children with her. The doorman called, sounding unsure. Ms. Atwood says she's just here to drop something off. She insists it's important. Let her up, I said after a moment. Only her. When the elevator doors opened, she was alone. No children, no bags, just her. Holding a white envelope, she looked different. No makeup, no jewelry, hair pulled back the way I imagine it is when no one's supposed to see her. She stepped inside. Her shoes made no sound on the hardwood floors. She handed me the envelope without a word. I opened it carefully. Inside, a check. Not for much, but made out to me. Memo line. Repayment. Beginning. She stood with her arms crossed, not defensive, just bracing. I know it's not enough, she said, but it's what I could do this month. I'm not asking to move in or for dinner. I just thought, if you ever open the door again, I'd rather be standing outside it with something to give for once. I looked at her, really looked. She looked tired. But something in her face had cracked, and behind it something else was growing. Something new. I didn't say thank you. Not yet. I just nodded. And that was enough. For now. The check sat on my kitchen counter for a full week. Not because I didn't need it. Not because I was playing some quiet game of pride. But because I wanted to see if she'd cancel it. Wanted to see if it was a performance or a beginning. It cleared. That small deposit, less than the price of one of her handbags, was the first time Rachel had given instead of taken. And I didn't tell anyone. Not Matthew. Not the neighbors. Not even my friend Florence over morning coffee. I kept it to myself like a fragile sprout in winter soil. Some things need quiet to grow. The following Tuesday, Matthew showed up for dinner. He brought a bottle of wine he probably couldn't afford and hugged me like a man afraid I might vanish. I told her not to come, he said quickly. She's trying, but I wanted this to be just us. I know, I said. Set the table. He blinked. You're letting me stay? I smiled. You're not a trespasser tonight. You're a guest. That's different. He set the plates. I roasted the chicken, the way he liked it as a boy, with garlic and lemon and the skin crisped just right. We didn't talk about the past right away. We didn't need to. The silence between us wasn't sharp anymore. It was soft, curious. Halfway through the meal, he looked up. Mom, he said slowly, how did we become people who forgot how to see each other? I wiped my mouth and set my napkin aside. By letting love turn into obligation, I said. By mistaking sacrifice for devotion. And by forgetting that family doesn't mean ownership. It means choice. Daily, deliberate choice. He nodded. Then after a long pause, I was angry when you shut the door. I know, I said. But now I think I was angrier at myself for needing you more than I respected you. Those words, they didn't fix everything, but they reached me. Later, as we cleared the table, I told him he needed to teach his children that love isn't about what you take, it's about what you return. Otherwise, I said, they'll grow up thinking they're the sun and everyone else is just orbiting them. Matthew smiled softly. And here I thought you were just going to lecture me about my credit score. Oh, I still might, I said, swatting his arm. But for tonight, we'll start with dignity. He left with leftovers and a quiet promise to call next week. Not because he needed anything, just because he wanted to. I watched him go from the rooftop. The sky was navy, scattered with stars. A slight wind brushed against my cheek. I closed my eyes, breathed it in. Peace. Not perfection, but peace. Later that night, I sat at my desk and opened a blank page in my journal. I wrote, tonight I ate dinner with my son. Not as his bank, not as his burden, as his mother, and I let that be enough. And I let.